In the beginning, there was no time, no gods, and no people, only the land and the sea. Where these two primordial elements met, a white mare made of sea foam was born. Her name was Eiocha, and she was the goddess of the ocean. On the land grew a huge oak which bore seeds known as the tears of the sea. To sustain herself, Eiocha ate these white berries which transformed into a child within her. In due time, she gave birth to the god Cernunnos. The pain of birth was unbearable, and in her agony, Eiocha ripped a piece of bark from the tree and hurled it into the sea. The bark sank into the watery depths of the abyss, and from its husk rose the giants of the sea. Eiocha spent a lot of time in the ocean, causing Cernunnos to feel isolated. He felt outnumbered by the sea giants who roamed the abyss, causing floods and earthquakes. In his loneliness, he asked Eiocha to bear him children. She agreed, and through their union they sired Maponos, god of youth, Cernunnos, god of thunder, Tetuates, the divine protector, and finally Epona, a fertility goddess. For many years they lived happily together, but as time passed, Eiocha's children became adults, and she started to feel restless. She longed for the waters of home, so she left Cernunnos to return to the ocean as a sea mare. She became known as Tethra, goddess of the deep. With Eiocha gone, the gods became bored and lonely, for they no longer had someone to command them. They desired company, so they decided to create a new race of beings to honor and worship them. They took bark from the great oak tree and fashioned the first man and the first woman. Cernunnos then made animals from the bark: a deer, a hound, a raven, a hare, and a snake. From that moment on, he became known as the god of beasts, and he ordered the oak to grow into a vast and beautiful forest for his children and animals to live in. It was a green and luscious paradise, shining like an emerald in the darkness. Within their new paradise, Epona decided to create a team of horses and stallions, which she dedicated to her beloved mother, Eiocha. The other gods approached the great oak and took some of its branches. Tetuates made a bow and arrow. Cernunnos fashioned thunderbolts made of fire. He then leapt to the top of the tallest tree and hurled his weapon at the ground, causing the earth to shake, the grass to burn, and the animals to flee in panic. Maponos fashioned a harp and spent his days in the wood playing music, which captivated the wind and the birds who joined in with his melodies. All the while, Cernunnos' animals would gather round Maponos to hear him play. However, while the gods basked in their self-made paradise, the giants of the sea looked upon them with envious eyes. They became bitter and hateful, for their own underworld realm was dark and gloomy and held no light to the heaven above, nor did they have anyone to worship them. They decided to attack the land dwellers and overwhelm them with the sea, claiming the land as the ocean's property. But Tethra, who had returned to the ocean, heard the murmuring of these giants, and she remembered her days as Eiocha. She made for the Isle of Paradise and warned her children of the coming attack. The giants of the deep waited to make a surprise attack, but the gods were waiting. They had taken refuge in the oak tree, where Cernunnos hurled his thunderbolts at them. As they hit the coast, the land was split in two, causing the sea to overflow. Maponos then cracked open the sky and hurled it at the giants, creating a rain of fire. Tetuates stood upon the crown of the great oak and took aim with his bow. He drove the giants back to the sea with a tirade of arrows, cutting many of his foes down. The sea giants then called upon the waves to protect them, fending off all further attacks. The giants of the deep had been driven back to the sea, and Tethra bound them in her deep waters. After the battle, a few of the sea giants managed to escape, and they fled far from Eiocha's reach. They called themselves the Fomori and built a life on the outer edges of the world. The Fomori dreamed of conquest and vowed revenge, keeping their eyes fixed firmly upon the paradise above. The sea returned to its natural habitat, and Maponos repaired the sky. The gods looked around at what was left of their paradise and were grieved to see that almost all the humans had been killed. Epona, however, managed to save one man and one woman from the chaos. And it was these two mortals who went on to repopulate the earth.